So let's get going today. So I'm going to re-record the lesson on the mic. I've already put one on the website, but as I went on, I seemed like I got better at describing things, so I'm going to go ahead and re-record it and put this one on there anyway. So as we were talking about before, each of these can be rewritten. Each of these is a perfect square trinomial and can be rewritten as a binomial squared. And so you have to then kind of make a decision as to how you go about figuring out how you write them as a binomial squared. Now, if you think about the way it works when you're multiplying, let's just say you're multiplying a binomial times another binomial. Remember, we learned 3 different ways of doing this. We learned box method, double distributive, and FOIL. I want to focus on FOIL because the way FOIL works is you get the first term of your quadratic by multiplying this times this. Agreed? And then you do the inside and the outside, and then you do the last 2. So this is the first, and this is the last. What would you have to multiply to get x squared? X times x, right? Which stands to reason that x goes first. And last. What times what gets you 25? Positive or negative 5. So now we have to determine whether or not we think plus 5 goes here or minus 5 goes here. Why, Kylie?
Because you have to add 2 numbers to get negative 10, but you also have to multiply those same 2 numbers to get a positive number.
Yeah. It has to be minus 5 because of the value of the b. Has to be. If you had x plus 5 times x plus 5 and you FOILed it, you would get x squared plus 5x plus 5x plus 25, and then when you combined your middle terms, it would be plus 10x. That's not what we have. We have minus 10x, which pretty much means that inside that binomial, it has to be x plus 5. So let's figure out what the rest of these guys are. On number 2, what do you think the binomial is?
X plus 3.
Very good. X plus 3 squared. This is the same as this, just rewritten a different way. One way is factored, one way is standard. This is our standard form. This is our factored form. Okay, Riley? X plus 7 to the second power. And the last one, Zoe? X minus 8. X minus 8. Now you may ask yourself, why in the world would I need to know that? Why couldn't I just do A times C, right, and factor it like normal? The answer is you can. Guys, if you have, let me minimize that, if you have this, x squared plus 10x plus 25 equals 0, you could absolutely, if I said solve this quadratic, if I said solve that quadratic, you could absolutely do A times C and find 2 numbers that when multiplied together get you 25, and when added together get you 10, and then you could go through all the factoring process and get your factors and then solve it. However, if you can recognize this as a perfect square trinomial where you just say, oh, it's x plus 5 squared equals 0, what value of x makes that equal to 0? You're solved. Without A times C, without what adds up to B, without factoring, without box method. It doesn't mean that way's bad. You would, by the way, get the exact same answer if you did all the other stuff. But every second I can get you to recognize a shortcut is a second you get to save for somewhere else on the test where you might need it. It's a timed test. Most tests are going to be timed tests. So I need to get you to be more efficient. Each day, have a good day, each day I'm teaching you different methods of solving a quadratic. We learn how to factor a quadratic and then use the zero product property to set it equal to 0, right? That's one way to solve it. Then we learned yesterday that we can do the square root function. We can just take the square root of both sides and sometimes solve it. Today you're going to learn something called completing the square. It is not the easiest way to solve it, but sometimes it's the necessary way to solve it. And I'll show you when that happens. So first you have to kind of understand what you have to do. The very first thing I want you to do is I want you to get your equation into the form a binomial squared equals k, a constant. So you're basically going to write that something plus or minus something else squared equals a constant. What is a constant? Okay, what is it mathematically? Do you know?
I don't say.
It's a number without a variable.
So C.
Yeah. C is a constant.
Oh, because constant and then the first letter is.
Yeah, by the way, the y-intercept in a linear equation, the y-intercept is a constant. Y equals 3x plus 2. 2 is your constant. It's any number without a variable. Any number without a variable is considered a constant. So for this k, it could be 8, it could be negative 16, it could be 3, it could be 1/2. It's any number without a variable. So here are the steps. I'm going to go over the steps, then I'm going to show you how to use the steps. The steps are critically important because otherwise you will get a little bit confused, especially at first. This is one of those concepts that gets easier as you practice it. So after we get done, since you have no homework today, you need to go through every classwork problem. I'm here to tell you. You have to know how to complete the square. It's on every algebra test you'll ever have, basically, that involves quadratics. Guaranteed. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to get your x squared and your x terms on the left side of your equation. And you're going to put your constant on the right. You're going to separate it. If it's in standard form, you're going to keep the x squared and the x on the left, and you're going to move the constant to the right, mathematically. Okay? You're going to then take half of your b value. Where would we find the b value? The number before the x. You're going to take half of that, and you're going to square it. That will get you a number. So if your b value is 8, what's half of 8?
4.
Squared. You would add 16 to both sides. If your b value is 10, what's half of 10? Squared. You would add 25 to both sides. You take half of it, and you square it, and you add it to both sides. Now you have to add it to both sides because it's an equation. You can't just randomly add something to one side of an equation. You have to add it to both. You have to keep it balanced. You have to keep it equal. Then you're going to write the left side of your equation as a binomial squared, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Then you're going to use the square root method, which we practiced yesterday, the square root method, to find the roots of the quadratic. You basically use the square root method to find the solutions to your quadratic. Solutions, roots, zeros, all same thing. Solutions, roots, and zeros, all the same thing. That's going to leave a mark. All right, so before we get going, I have to teach you how to make a perfect square trinomial. Remember, these were all perfect square trinomials. There's a way, bless you, Riley, to make them. I'm going to show you how to make them. Now, I want you to watch so you don't get all twisted. You take, see how we're missing the c value? You find the b value. What's the b value? Positive 2. It's very important that you understand the value. Positive 2. You cut it in half. Now, how mathematically do you cut something in half? You divide it by 2, which gives you positive 1. That's an important number, and I'll show you why in just a few minutes. And then you square it. What's 1 squared?
Why do we have to divide it by 2?
Because I said it's step 2. Read the steps that you... I know. Got it?
Yes.
Okay, the next one. What's the value of b in number 2? Negative 4 divided by 2, which is negative 2. What's negative 2 squared?
4.
4. So that's what you put right here. Number 3, b value is positive 12. We divide it by 2, which gives us 6. We square 6, and we get 36. Well, I was saying I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. Okay. And then on number 4, the value of b is negative 18. We divide it by 2, and we get negative 9. What is negative 9 squared? 81. Now let me show you what you've done. Number 4 is x minus 9 squared. Number 3 is x plus 6 squared. Number 2 is x minus 2 squared. And number 1 is x plus 1 squared. Riley Christian, why was half of b important?
Shows you the y or the other value.
It shows you the value that goes in the parentheses.
That's it?
It shows you the value that goes inside the parentheses as it's squared. Yes, ma'am?
It's not. Nah.
Yeah, just think. Chew on it for a second. Now let's see what we're doing. Let me show you why it works. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work one, and I want you to follow along watching your steps. Okay? So step 1 says we have x squared plus 6x minus 16. Step 1 says to move the constant to the other side. So we are going to move negative 16 to the other side of the equal sign. Now how mathematically must I move minus 16? Add 16. So I add 16 to both sides, and that gives me x squared plus 6x. Now I leave a big old blank, and then I put 16. Where the minus 16 was, leave a blank. Leave a space. Ooh. Now we're going to take half of b. What's half of b? Positive 3. By the way, I would write that little over here over the corner, something you're going to need later on, and square it. 9. So I'm going to add 9 right here. It's half of b squared, and I add it. That's step 2. But it also says I need to add it to both sides. This is where every kid screws up. You have to add it to both sides. Otherwise, you screwed up your equation. You took something that was equal and you made it not equal because you added 9 to one side, but you didn't add it to the other. Has to be added to both sides. With me so far? If you did it correctly, guys, on the left-hand side, you now created one of those guys. What is it? X plus 3 squared. That's why it's important sometimes to write down that half of b. It's always half of b that goes inside there. And what's on the right side? 25, because 16 plus 9 is 25. Absolutely not. But now we'll pick up where we started yesterday. How would we begin to solve this? What's next? We take the square root of both sides, which is what we did yesterday. What is the square root of x plus 3 squared? It is simply x plus 3. What is the square root of 25? Positive or negative 5.
Oh!
And then we subtract 3 from both sides. And now we have to consider both numbers, right? What is positive 5 minus 3? What is negative 5 minus 3? Those are your two solutions.
That is a lot of work.
Yes, it is.
I don't like really complicated.
I don't.
Okay. Now, let me explain why, because I think why is important. But I need you to watch so you understand why. To be perfectly honest with you, if I was told to solve number 5, there's no way I would have done this. And I'll tell you why. Because if you do a times c, and you get negative 16, and you factor negative 16, you could find two numbers that when multiplied get you negative 16, and add get you positive 6. Because negative 2 times 8 works for that, which means it's factorable. You could have done this and then used negative 2x plus 8x and factored that and gotten the factors and then found the solutions. Hold, Cameron. That's the way I would have solved this one. And by the way, if you had done all this, you would still get these as answers. You would still get them as answers. Cameron, what was your question? Does everyone understand that? You could have factored this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold.
Can you not factor the next one?
Well, I don't know. Let's see. Now, A times C is what? In the next one, -4. So we're looking for two numbers that when multiplied together get you -4, and when added together get you +2. Find me two numbers that when multiplied together get you -4, but added together get you +2. -2 plus 2 is 0. Next. There are no factors that do. You can't factor number 6. You can't factor it. But I'm still telling you I want you to solve it. So you better have something else in your toolbox. That's why you have completing the square. So watch me solve this. So we're going to go back to our steps. Remember, we moved the -4 to the other side. It gives us x squared plus 2x, big O blank, equals 4. Right?
Yes.
Then we take half of b, +1. Remember, you want to write that +1 somewhere because you're going to use it in a moment. And then you have to square +1. Still 1, which you add to both sides. That's step 2 in your steps if you're following along. If we did it correctly, we created a binomial squared in the first one. X plus 1 squared. And what's on the right side? 5. Now we have a square root. So now we do the square root. We do the square root. The square root of x plus 1 squared is x plus 1. What is the square root of 5? Positive or negative square root of 5. You cannot break it down, remember? You cannot break down the square root of 5, so you just put a plus and a minus in front of it because you have to account for both the positive and the negative.
I'm lost. But, okay, once you get to the x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 5,
I actually got a.
then you go straight into that with the thing.
If you did it correctly, Julia, this,
Yes, I got that. So then
did you get this?
I didn't know
That's what we did in the first 4.
what makes it go to the x plus 1 squared.
You made it so when you entered this value, you made it a perfect square trinomial.
Okay.
Now, how do I get the x by itself? I subtract 1 from both sides. Now remember yesterday I told you I wanted this written a certain way. I want this there. So it's -1 plus or minus the square root of 5. And that is your solution. Those are your solutions. By the way, just to be clear, this quadratic crosses the x-axis in these two places. It crosses at -1 plus the square root of 5, and it crosses at -1 minus the square root of 5. And if you want to know exactly where that is, you let your calculator do that work for you. You found the solutions to your quadratic. Zoe? That's exactly what I would do. So you try number 7 yourself. Follow along the steps I gave you. Do not try to do it from memory yet. I gave you a checklist of steps. So start with number 7 and follow every step one at a time. The mistakes I saw in my last few periods were where kids were just trying to do it from memory. Don't. That's why I give you steps, guys. Until you look at the steps over and over, you won't be able to memorize them. It's like the Pledge of Allegiance. You memorized the Pledge of Allegiance because you were reading it over and over when you were in kindergarten until it got to a point where you just knew it. Steps are the same way. You have to read them over and over.
Do other countries have pledges?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Canada.
No, Dad. Hi, my mother.
Only reason I know that's hockey.
I know that.
Go Stars!
I know that.
Okay, follow steps. Go. Let's go. Follow steps. Following steps. Read the steps, then do the steps. Bless you again. Now, you should get to a place where you have x minus 12 squared equals 72. Now, I'm going to stop there because I want anyone who didn't get to x minus 12 squared equals 72 to let me know so we can talk about where you might have gone wrong if you don't see where you went wrong. Once you get, Ava, did you get here?
No, for the 144.
Do what now, Ava?
I did not get to the 144. Please don't worry about that.
That was step, so did you do half of b? What's half of b? What's negative 12 squared?
1 squared.
Yep. Guys, then you're not reading your steps, Ava. Then you weren't reading your steps, baby. It is step 2. Read your steps. Now, once you get here, now where do we go? Square root method. So you square root both sides, and you end up with x minus 12 equals, well, the square root of 72, if you remember from yesterday, square root of 36, square root of 2, 4 and 18 are not it.
Crap.
You need to punch it into the calculator and look on the y side for the largest good square root. The square root of 36 is positive or negative 6 times the square root of 2. So here we are. And the only thing left to do is to add 12 to both sides, which gives us a final answer of x equals 12 plus or minus 6 times the square root of 2.
How did you... To 36.
Because when you punch in y equals 72 divided by x, which is how we learned to factor yesterday, and you go to the table, which you didn't do, the table will tell you this: 0 error, 172, 236, 324. But you wouldn't even be looking because if you went down the y side, like I said, you would stop at the first good square. First good square root. Guys, listen to me. I'm not just speaking to hear myself. I'm giving you steps you must follow. Okay? But the cool thing is, if you will get disciplined enough to follow them, you'll get it every time. Okay? Let's try number 8. Yourself. Same thing. This time, get those steps out and follow them. I think it's like 4 steps, maybe 5. 4 steps. You can follow 4 steps, for goodness sakes. Come on now. And don't look up until you get to the place where you have a binomial squared, and you can look and see if you have the right answer or not. Remember, it's half of b squared added to both sides. And once you get here, then it's just square root time. Square root, square root. The square root of 40, actually, all you've got is the square root of 4 times the square root of 10, which is positive or negative 2 root 10. So what you end up with is x minus 4 equals positive or negative 2 times the square root of 10, which you add 4, and x equals 4 plus or minus 2 square root 10. It's a lot of steps. It's a lot of thinking. Lincoln, I've been thinking so. Let's do one more, but I'm going to throw you a curveball. I want you to do number 10. And I want you to get me this answer, and then I want you to get me the 2 decimals rounded to the 100th that it's equal to. That's just punch into the calculator. Guys, if I wanted to find the decimals on these, I would, in my calculator, type in 4 plus 2 times the square root of 10, and I would hit enter. Then I would type in 4 minus 2 times the square root of 10 and hit enter. Calculator will do all that work for you. Try number 10. One step at a time, get all the way down, and get me both solutions. Get me both x-intercepts. Hundreds. Where to go from where, Julia?
What you wrote on the board.
Okay, so right here, right? So we're still looking.
Wait, no, go ahead.
Go what?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I would, from this point, I add 5 to both sides. So I end up with x equals 5, because remember the 5 goes there, plus or minus the square root of 21. Most tests will say that's your final answer. However, I wanted the decimals as well, so now we're going to split it into 2 pieces. One is going to be 5. I said 5 and wrote 2, which I don't even know how that actually happens. One of them is 5 plus the square root of 21, and one is 5 minus the square root of 21. Remember, that's why you have the plus or minus. And when you punch, and you can punch that right into your calculator and just hit enter. And you should have gotten 9.58 and 0.42. Why are these 2 decimals significant to this quadratic? Cameron? They are where it crosses the x-axis. This is exactly where this quadratic crosses the x-axis. They are the solutions. They are the roots. They are the zeros. You have solved the quadratic. You are always looking for where it crosses the x-axis. This is where it is. Huh? Yeah, it's a lot of work. Wait till tomorrow. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to get your classwork out. I want you working on that with the answer keys. Go methodically through. Read your steps. Most of the questions I get, I usually just point to your steps because you're asking a question that's written in front of you. Just follow your steps, guys, and you'll be great. If you have a question, holler. Otherwise, no homework tonight, so just get this